Welcome to Certification Terminal. In this series of video, we are going to discuss a couple of certified ethical hacker question and answers. Let's dive in. Within cybersecurity, what is the concept of a backdoor? Option A, a method used to increase network speed. Option B, a method used to control incoming and outgoing network traffic. Option C, a method that allows bypassing normal authentication or encryption in a computer system, a product, or an embedded device. Option D, a method used to monitor network traffic. The correct answer is Option C, a method that allows bypassing normal authentication or encryption in a computer system, a product, or an embedded device. A backdoor provides unauthorized access to a system by circumventing normal authentication or encryption mechanisms, allowing attackers to gain entry without proper credentials. Option A is incorrect. This option describes a different concept known as network optimization or acceleration techniques. Backdoors are not intended to increase network speed, but rather to provide unauthorized access to a system. Option B is incorrect. This option describes a firewall or other network security measures for managing network traffic. Backdoors are designed to circumvent security measures, not to control traffic. Option D is incorrect. This option describes a network monitoring tool or intrusion detection system. While monitoring tools can detect suspicious network activity, backdoors are designed to provide unauthorized access rather than monitor traffic. Next question. Which law mandates the use of standard national identifiers by employers for identification in standard transactions? Option A, Sarbanes-Oxley Act. Option B, Payment Card Industry Data Security Standard. Option C, Health Insurance Portability and Accountability Act. Option D, Digital Millennium Copyright Act. The correct answer is Option C, Health Insurance Portability and Accountability Act, HIPAA. HIPAA includes regulations known as the HIPAA Administrative Simplification Provisions, which mandate the use of standard national identifiers, such as national provider identifiers, for healthcare providers, health plans, and healthcare clearinghouses in electronic transactions. These identifiers help standardize electronic healthcare transactions and improve efficiency in the healthcare industry. Option A, SOX, Sarbanes-Oxley Act, is incorrect. SOX primarily focuses on financial reporting and corporate governance requirements for publicly traded companies in the United States. It does not specifically mandate the use of standard national identifiers by employers for identification in standard transactions. Option B, PCI DSS, Payment Card Industry Data Security Standard, is incorrect. PCI DSS is a set of security standards designed to ensure that companies process, store, and transmit credit card information securely. While PCI DSS requires businesses to protect cardholder data, it does not specifically address the use of standard national identifiers by employers for identification in standard transactions. Option D, DMCA, Digital Millennium Copyright Act, is incorrect. DMCA is a copyright law in the United States that criminalizes the production and dissemination of technology, devices, or services intended to circumvent measures that control access to copyrighted works. It does not pertain to the use of standard national identifiers by employers for identification in standard transactions. Next question. In the enumeration stage, Bob is utilizing banner grabbing to retrieve data, such as OS details and service versions. The service being targeted runs directly on TCP port 445. Which service is Bob enumerating in this situation? Option A, server message block. Option B, remote procedure call. Option C, network file system. Option D, telnet. The correct answer is Option A, server message block. SMB is a network file sharing protocol used for providing shared access to files, printers, and other resources on a network. It typically operates on TCP port 445. Bob is targeting a service running on TCP port 445, which is commonly associated with SMB. Option B, remote procedure call, is incorrect. RPC is a protocol that allows a program on one computer to execute code on a remote system. While RPC services can run on various ports, They are not specifically associated with TCP port 445. Option C, network file system, is incorrect. NFS is a distributed file system protocol used for accessing files over a network. It typically operates on UDP ports 2049 and 111. While NFS can use TCP port 445 in certain configurations, it is less common than SMB. Option D, Telnet, is incorrect. Telnet is a network protocol used for remote terminal access. It typically operates on TCP port 23. Since Bob is targeting a service running on TCP port 445, which is not associated with Telnet, this option is incorrect. Next question. Ethical hackers use various tools to find weaknesses in systems. When can a technique like Google hacking, which involves crafting special search queries, be helpful in the ethical hacking process? Example, all in title:root password. Option A, maintaining access. Option B, reconnaissance. Option C, gaining access. Option D, scanning and enumeration. The correct answer is Option B, reconnaissance. Reconnaissance is the initial phase of the ethical hacking process, where information gathering and analysis are conducted to identify potential targets and gather information about them. Google hacking, with its ability to discover vulnerabilities through crafted search queries, can be particularly useful during this phase for identifying publicly accessible information about a target systems, services, and potential vulnerabilities. Option A, maintaining access, is incorrect. Maintaining access involves methods used by attackers to ensure continued access to a compromised system. Google hacking, which involves crafting special search queries to find vulnerabilities, is not directly related to maintaining access to a system. Option C, gaining access, is incorrect. Gaining access involves using the information gathered during reconnaissance to exploit vulnerabilities and gain unauthorized access to a system. While Google hacking can identify potential vulnerabilities, it does not directly facilitate gaining access to a system. Option D, scanning and enumeration, is incorrect. Scanning and enumeration involve actively probing systems for vulnerabilities and gathering more detailed information about them. Google hacking is more closely related to the reconnaissance phase, where information gathering and analysis occur, rather than scanning and enumeration. Next question. Which of the following options plays a role as a detective control in security infrastructure? Option A, security policy. Option B, audit trail. Option C, continuity of operations plan. Option D, smart card authentication. The correct answer is Option B, audit trail. An audit trail is a record of system activity that enables the reconstruction and examination of events to determine what happened, who performed actions, and when they occurred. Audit trails are a key component of detective controls because they allow organizations to review and analyze system activity for signs of unauthorized access, malicious activity, or policy violations. By maintaining comprehensive audit trails, organizations can detect security incidents and take appropriate action. Option A, security policy, is incorrect. A security policy is a set of rules and guidelines that govern how an organization manages and protects its resources. While security policies are essential for establishing security requirements and standards, they are more preventive or directive in nature rather than detective. Security policies outline what actions are allowed or prohibited, but they do not actively monitor or detect security incidents. Option C, continuity of operations plan, is incorrect. A continuity of operations plan is a set of procedures and protocols designed to ensure that critical functions can continue to operate during and after a disaster or disruption. While a continuity of operations plans are essential for maintaining business operations, they are more focused on resilience and business continuity, rather than detective controls. A continuity of operations plans address how organizations can recover from disruptions rather than actively monitoring or detecting security incidents. Option D, smart card authentication, is incorrect. Smart card authentication is a method of authentication that uses smart cards to verify the identity of users accessing systems or resources. While smart card authentication is an important security measure for ensuring that only authorized users can access resources, It is more preventive in nature rather than detective. Smart card authentication controls access to systems, but does not actively monitor or detect security incidents. Next question. What are the initial two commands sent by an IRC client when connecting to an IRC network? Option A, user and NIC. Option B, login and NIC. Option C, user and pass. Option D, login and user. The correct answer is option A, user and NIC. When connecting to an IRC network, the initial two commands sent by an IRC client are typically user and NIC. The user command specifies the username and hostname of the client, while the NIC command sets the nickname that the client will use on the network. These commands are essential for identifying and authenticating the client on the IRC network. Option B, login and NIC, is incorrect. The login command is not part of the standard IRC protocol for connecting to an IRC network. IRC clients typically do not use a login command during the connection process. Option C, user and pass, is incorrect. While the user command is part of the standard IRC protocol and is used to specify the username and hostname of the client, the pass command is not typically used during the initial connection to an IRC network. The pass command is used for authenticating with a server password, but it is not one of the initial commands sent by an IRC client when connecting to a network. Option D, login and user, is incorrect. Similar to option B, the login command is not part of the standard IRC protocol for connecting to an IRC network. Additionally, the order of the commands in this option is incorrect. The NIC command usually precedes the user command. Next question. Which SNMP version is advisable for network administrators to use? Option A, version 4. Option B, version 2. Option C, version 3. Option D, version 1. The correct answer is option C, version 3. SNMP version 3 is the most secure and advisable choice for network administrators. It introduces security enhancements such as authentication, encryption, and access control, addressing the security weaknesses present in SNMP version 1 and 2. These features provide improved protection against unauthorized access, data tampering, and eavesdropping, making SNMP version 3 the preferred choice for network administrators in most scenarios. Option A, version 4, is incorrect. There is no SNMP version 4. The SNMP protocol has versions 1, 2, and 3. Option B, version 2, is incorrect. SNMP version 2 improves upon SNMP version 1 by adding new features such as increased message size and support for additional data types. However, SNMP version 2 is still vulnerable to security issues, such as plaintext community strings. Therefore, while SNMP version 2 is an improvement over SNMP version 1, it is not the most advisable choice for network administrators due to security concerns. Option D, version 1, is incorrect. SNMP version 1 is the original version of the SNMP protocol and is known to have security vulnerabilities, such as plaintext community strings and lack of authentication and encryption mechanisms. While SNMP version 1 is widely supported and simple to implement, it is not recommended for use in environments where security is a concern. Next question. What is the intention behind a man-in-the-middle attack? Option A, gaining access. Option B, hijacking a session. Option C, covering tracks. Option D, maintaining access. The correct answer is option B, hijacking a session. The primary intention behind a man-in-the-middle attack is to intercept and manipulate communication between two parties, often with the goal of hijacking a session. By positioning themselves between the communication path, the attacker can eavesdrop on the communication, modify data, or impersonate one or both parties involved in the communication. Hijacking a session allows the attacker to gain unauthorized access to sensitive information or perform unauthorized actions on behalf of the legitimate parties. Option A, gaining access, is incorrect. While gaining access to a system or network may be a goal of some attacks, it is not the specific intention behind a man-in-the-middle attack. MITM attacks focus on intercepting and manipulating communications between two parties, rather than directly gaining access to systems or networks. Option C, covering tracks, is incorrect. Covering tracks typically refers to actions taken by attackers to hide their presence or activities after gaining unauthorized access to a system or network. While covering tracks may be a goal of some attacks, it is not the specific intention behind a man-in-the-middle attack. Option D, maintaining access, is incorrect. Maintaining access involves actions taken by attackers to ensure continued access to a compromised system or network after initial access has been gained. While maintaining access may be a goal of some attacks, it is not the specific intention behind a man-in-the-middle attack. Next question. What technique is utilized in executing a connection stream parameter pollution attack? Option A, using semicolons as a separator to inject arguments into a connection string. Option B, using the same name for many parameters in HTTP requests. Option C, injecting harmful JavaScript code into input parameters. Option D, setting the session identification of a user to a known value. The correct answer is Option A, using semicolons as a separator to inject arguments into a connection string. This option accurately describes the technique used in a connection stream parameter pollution (CSPP) attack. In this attack, an attacker injects additional parameters into a connection string by using semicolons as separators. By doing so, the attacker can manipulate the behavior of the application or backend system. For example, in a database connection string, the attacker may inject additional parameters to bypass authentication or execute arbitrary commands. Option B is incorrect. This technique is not specific to CSPP attacks. Using the same name for multiple parameters in HTTP requests may lead to parameter confusion vulnerabilities, but it is not the primary technique employed in CSPP attacks. Option C is incorrect. This option describes a different type of attack, known as cross-site scripting (XSS), where attackers inject malicious JavaScript code into input parameters to execute unauthorized actions in the context of a web application. While XSS attacks can be harmful, they are not directly related to CSPP attacks, which involve manipulating connection strings. Option D is incorrect. This option describes a technique commonly associated with session fixation attacks, where an attacker sets the session ID of a user to a known value to hijack their session. While session fixation attacks are a concern for session management, they are not the technique employed in CSPP attacks. Next question. Which of the following Google Advanced Search operators allows an attacker to focus search results on websites within a specific domain? Option A, in URL. Option B, link. Option C, cache. Option D, site. The correct answer is Option D, site. The site operator is used to limit search results to specific websites or domains. When an attacker utilizes site, they can focus search results exclusively on websites within a specific domain, allowing them to find potentially vulnerable pages within the target domain. Option A, in URL, is incorrect. The URL operator allows users to search for pages containing a specific term in the URL. While useful for refining search results based on URL content, it does not restrict results to websites within a specific domain. Option B, link, is incorrect. The link operator allows users to find pages that link to a specific URL. It is useful for finding pages that link to a particular website or page, but does not restrict search results to websites within a specific domain. Option C, cache, is incorrect. The cache operator allows users to view Google's cached version of a web page. It does not restrict search results to websites within a specific domain. Next question. What action will an attacker take after successfully orchestrating an STP manipulation attack on a company's internal network? Option A. On the faked root bridge, he will establish a span entry and reroute traffic to his machine. Option B. On the faked root bridge, he will enable OSPF. Option C. He will keep doing this until it turns into a DOS attack. Option D. He will carry out the identical attack on all of the network's L2 switches. The correct answer is Option A. On the faked root bridge, he will establish a span entry and reroute traffic to his machine. This option accurately describes a potential action an attacker may take after successfully orchestrating an STP manipulation attack. By establishing a switched port analyzer, SPAN, entry, on the faked root bridge, the attacker can monitor and capture network traffic, potentially extracting sensitive information or performing further malicious activities. Rerouting traffic to his machine allows the attacker to intercept and analyze network communications. Option B is incorrect. Enabling OSPF, open shortest path first, on the faked root bridge is not a typical action an attacker would take after an STP manipulation attack. OSPF is a routing protocol used to determine the best paths for routing IP packets within a network, and it operates at the network layer, layer 3, of the OSI model. STP manipulation attacks typically focus on manipulating layer 2 network protocols, such as STP, to control the path of Ethernet frames within a network. Option C is incorrect. While an attacker may continue to perform STP manipulation attacks to disrupt network operations and cause a denial of service condition, this is not the immediate action they would take after successfully orchestrating one STP manipulation attack. The scenario described in this option represents a prolonged campaign of STP manipulation attacks rather than the immediate next step following one successful attack. Option D is incorrect. While an attacker may attempt to expand their attack to other layer 2 switches in the network, performing the identical STP manipulation attack on all switches may not be the immediate next step. Additionally, the effectiveness of such an attack on multiple switches would depend on the network topology and configuration. Therefore, while it's a potential course of action, it may not be the immediate step after one successful attack. Next question. While examining a web application during development, you notice that the web server mishandles the ... character sequence, allowing the retrieval of the file listing from a directory positioned higher in the server's folder hierarchy. What type of attack does this misconfiguration enable? Option A, cross-site scripting. Option B, directory traversal. Option C, denial of service. Option D, SQL injection. The correct answer is Option B, directory traversal. Directory traversal, also known as path traversal, occurs when a web server improperly handles user input, allowing attackers to access files and directories outside of the web root directory. In this scenario, the mishandling of the ... character sequence enables an attacker to navigate to directories higher up in the server's folder hierarchy, potentially accessing sensitive files or directories. Option A, cross-site scripting, is incorrect. Cross-site scripting involves injecting malicious scripts into web pages viewed by other users. It typically occurs when web applications fail to properly sanitize user input. While directory traversal may indirectly lead to XSS, if sensitive files containing scripts are exposed, the scenario described in the question is primarily indicative of a directory traversal vulnerability rather than XSS. Option C, denial of service, is incorrect. Denial of service attacks aim to disrupt the availability of a web application or service by overwhelming it with excessive traffic or exploiting vulnerabilities. While directory traversal may indirectly lead to denial of service attacks, if an attacker accesses critical system files or exhausts server resources, the scenario described in the question focuses on unauthorized access to files rather than service disruption. Option D, SQL injection, is incorrect. SQL injection involves inserting malicious SQL queries into input fields of web applications to manipulate the database backend. While SQL injection is a serious vulnerability, it is not directly related to the mishandling of the ... character sequence and access to files higher in the directory structure. Thank you very much for watching. Please hit the like button and subscribe to our channel if these questions add value to your preparation. We'll meet in the next video. Take care until then.